What's up, guys? It's Crash, and whether you're a fan of super hardcore tactical mil sims or not, I want to try to explain to you why I think this is important to me and important to you regardless of the type of shooter you enjoy, because I think this game could have impacts felt across the entire shooter genre, and I want to talk about that just a little bit. The game I am referring to is, of course, 6 Days in Fallujah, and everybody's talking about it today because it did get an early access release date finally. It's been a long time coming, and it's not that far off, with June 22nd being the day that you guys can check it out over on Steam. And this game really has some uniqueness that I'm excited to see how it plays out, and I'm hopeful that these ripples can be felt across the industry. If you guys don't know, it is going to be a first-person tactical co-op shooter with a fire team of up to 4 people who go in and have to basically clear rooms. They try to use, actual real-life accounts to try to harness that fear, that unknown, that scared, just not knowing what's going to happen of clearing these rooms in what they claim to be the bloodiest battle since 1968 of infantry soldiers. And that entire paradigm of the game is where some of these interesting things came from, and why I think it's going to matter to us, like I said, no matter the type of shooter that you enjoy. The first thing I want to talk about is essentially this game's rocky road to launch. It had a really hard time getting to launch. It was started and announced back in 2009, and it's been worked on ever since then, but there were several periods in there where it didn't look like the game was going to be able to be launched. It was essentially kind of canceled by media, canceled by people who thought it was a little bit too insensitive to people who had just gone through that conflict, and it was going for something that was too realistic and kind of telling a dark side of human history that we really didn't want to be shown. And it is cool, in my opinion, to see this game go ahead and break through all that and get to be launched, because what this does as an industry is it shows that games, no matter what they are, it still gives developers and the freedom to tell the story that they want to. And it essentially seems like this game is really trying to harness that and tell this story. And the trailers seem more documentary-like in nature. And, regardless of how dark or how just, the stain on human history that war can be, I think it's important to remember things and how they happened and what they went through. And I think gaming is a great medium to be able to tell stories like this, no matter how controversial they are. If it happened, we need to remember it and learn from it and move on as a society. That's one thing. The thing that I'm talking about gameplay wise, on a lighter note, that I'm much more excited about, to be honest with you guys, and if you guys have followed along on the podcast, you know this, the procedurally generated maps that they've shown. In playing games like Ready or Not, it kind of had a similar, rough road to launch with the controversial topics that game covered. But with co-op games, I feel like once you work through the missions, they're kind of played out, they're kind of done. But with procedurally generated maps, this could be the first co-op game that's different every single time you've done it. Other games like Due Process tried to do it, but of course it didn't have the gameplay mechanics to kind of follow along with that interesting thing, being the procedurally generated maps that were different every time. But this actually has that, and in the trailers at least, it looks super cool. And why I think this is important, even potentially in the AAA space, you guys have known how sad I've kind of been about, games like Battlefield and Call of Duty for that matter, going for the skin type microtransactions. The battle pass, everything's cosmetic, all the maps are free, which is great, but there's way less of them, so there's way less playable content in these live service formulas. And I think it's because developers and large publishers like EA and Activision, they could see that they can make their money a lot easier off skins. It's a lot easier to make a $24 skin than it is to create an entire new big map. But for me, an old timer, I love having actual playable content that I can see when I'm in the game, like maps, weapons, and so forth and stuff like that. And so while this could be interesting for the co-op shooter genre space, I think it could also be interesting for the multiplayer space if we could get procedurally generated maps that work really well and fit and get that algorithm right that creates these things. Maybe this can take development time off of map teams who are a lot smaller now, and they'll be able to create more maps, more games going forward. I would love to see some other more arcade type mechanic games have procedurally generated maps. And even if you don't have procedurally generated maps, getting this technology down where AI can help create these type of maps, I think could really help the content drought. And maybe people that enjoy those microtransactions, battle passes, and skins and stuff like that can still have their stuff designed by artists. But these smaller map teams that seemingly get less time to work on actual maps, as we've seen less and less content, maybe they can get some help from some of these procedurally generated algorithms, these AI and things that help make maps, and we can get back to games with map packs, more maps, 4 or 5 maps in a pack instead of 1 would be awesome. So this is a game that is launching in June 22nd. Now, given this small team and kind of the iterations that it's been through, looking at some gameplay on the internet, I can see this having some bugs. Being early access, I can see some of the mechanics and animations being a little bit janky. I've also seen some really cool stuff with how they're going to handle UI, but keep in mind, guys, this isn't going to be a game that you're going to be able to slide cancel around corners, bunny hop, and smack some terrorists in the face. This is actually going to take real comms, real room clearing, and actual like real world tactics and maneuvers to clear some of these rooms is what it sounds like they're going for. So while this game might not be for you, I think it's really important to be excited that it actually made it to launch. It made it through all the trials and tribulations of the media, as well as cancel culture, and also the fact that we're going to see the first kind of realistic procedurally generated maps in a game, and I think this could be really big for the shooter genre. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll keep an eye on anything that happens with this. It comes out June 22nd. I look forward to seeing what happens after the fact. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you later on.